Good morning. I mean, afternoon. Just Warriors is almost 4. What am I talking about? Just starting in brain fart already? Okay. That's cool. Because, I like to be unscripted and I'm trying to be even more comfortable with that and even more unscripted. I didn't tell you guys about an email I got like a week ago about having AI write my content for me. And I thought, how terrible is that? Like, how many content creators fall for that? Like, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a YouTube channel. Seriously. Man, I was just floored. I was absolutely floored. Anyway, I have a lot that I want to get into with you today. And if I'm all by myself, that's all right. It's the replay crew that keeps the channel alive and well anyway. If anybody can hear me, I do have my mic. It was like sitting on top of a thing right a few feet away when I couldn't find it the day before yesterday. And I have a really good excuse for missing my YouTube yesterday. It was my kid's birthday. I know I don't need an excuse, but you know how I am. Hey, Bex, look at you. Thank you so much for coming in and saying hi. So I figured that means you can hear me. So Bex, I wanted to read an article to you about Taylor Casey, but I also wanted to read something about the Donner Party connecting to the Kylie Rodney case, of course. And I also have in my notes, there's some things about JP and the Micah Miller case that I've not said that I've really wanted to say. And then there is the Idaho 4. So, do you have a preference where to start? I'll let you decide since you're my loyal viewer. That's what you are, right? My loyal mod and viewer. Thank you so much. So, yeah, it's a gorgeous day out today. It's Friday, the 26th of June, July. Where are we? What day is it? What time is it? Okay. I've been so excited about my yoga and I've been so excited about that band that I mentioned, AJR. I'm pretty sure that's it. Adam, Jack, and Ryan, the brothers. Brothers met. Their last name, they changed it. I think it was a little bit longer than Met, and they just changed it to Met. Oh, because they're from New York. I hadn't thought about that, like the New York Mets. Anyway, the Donner connection, Kylie first. Well, not Kylie, but the connection to her area. Cool. Let's go ahead and read that because I was watching Mr. Mark's most recent live and he had a really good question. And I used to know the answer, but then I forgot. His question, and let me say, it's always good to have questions, right? Because we don't have the answers, but we do have some good questions. Hey, Christina, nice to see you. So should I start with my little, please make sure you're still subscribed, share a video of mine if you like, turn on your notification bell to ring. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. Everything I say is simply my opinion. For the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to learn something and be educational. I don't know how to say ardor more, so I'll just say it like that. And hello, Annie Ruler. And watching the world, look at all of you. That is totally rocking. We have a party going on. So this band that I keep talking about that I saw the other day perform live, AJR. Some of their message that I really connect with is just like being yourself, speaking your truth, and more than anything, expressing yourself, really expressing yourself. And man, they just really connect right in with me. And then, like I mentioned in my last video, it didn't surprise me to find out that Weezer are fans of theirs because you guys know how much I love Weezer. So everyone's saying hello to everybody, and that's always cool. So let's go ahead and start with this thing. Well, it was just the simple Donner Party is what I Googled. And the question that Mark had was, what year did it happen? And it happened, I want to say 1846, because I just looked at it. Yep, 1846. Wow, I could remember. Amazing, isn't it? So Wikipedia. Let's just start with that. The Donner Party, sometimes called the Donner Reed Party, were a group of American pioneers who migrated to California in a wagon train from the Midwest. Delayed by a multitude of mishaps, they spent the winter of 1846 to 1847 snowbound in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Some of the migrants resorted to cannibalism to survive, mainly eating bodies of those who had succumbed to starvation, sickness, or extreme cold. But in one case, I hadn't caught this before, you guys. Two Native American guides were deliberately red rummed for this purpose. So here's the 28th page of Patrick Breen's diary, recording his observations in late February of 1847, including, quote, Mrs. Murphy said here yesterday that thought she would commence on Milt and eat him. I don't that she has done so yet. It is distressing, end quote. Okay, very distressing. I mean, this is like the original game of Survivor, right? I mean, not a game, not a game. And let's see. Annie Ruler says seems Donner Party was elite frats before their healthier times. Oh, that's really gross, Annie Ruler. Thank you for saying it, so I didn't have to. Yeah. Okay. The Donner Party originated from Springfield, Illinois, and departed Independence, Missouri on the Oregon Trail in the spring of 1846. Wow, I didn't realize it was spring. That was a long haul. Behind many other pioneer families who were attempting to make the same overland trip. The journey west usually took between 4 and 6 months, but the Donner Party was slowed after electing to follow a new route called the Hastings Cutoff, which bypassed established trails and instead crossed the Rocky Mountains, Wasatch Range, if I said that right, Wasatch, and the Great Salt Lake City Desert in present-day Utah. The desolate and rugged terrain and the difficulties they later encountered while traveling along the Humboldt River in present-day Nevada resulted in the loss of many cattle and wagons, and divisions soon formed within the group. So is that what you were referring to with like the little elite frat thing? The alliances, fresh meat. Of course, were they still considered livestock in that 1800s? Those Native Americans ran away because they were Catholic and wouldn't be cannibals with them. They hunted them down and, ooh, I had not heard about this. Okay. By early November, the migrants had reached the Sierra Nevada, but became trapped by an early heavy snowfall near Truckee Lake, now Donner Lake, high in the mountains. Their food supplies ran dangerously low. Here, let me get out of the way so you can see the chakra tower, the magic chakra tower. Food supplies ran dangerously low, and in mid-December, some of the group set out on foot to obtain help. Rescuers from California attempted to reach the migrants, but the first relief party did not arrive until the middle of February 1847, almost 4 months after the wagon train became trapped. Of the 87 members of the party, 48 survived, so 39 did not make it. Historians, see how fancy my math is? Historians have described the episode as one of the most fascinating tragedies in California history and in the entire record of American westward migration. So, like I said, that's just the Wikipedia thing. There was another thing, the Donner Party timeline that I wanted to share. And let's see. Did I highlight that one? I think I did. Yeah. The following timeline provides an almost day-to-day basic description of events directly associated with the 1846 Donner Party. We won't go through the whole thing, of course. Um, Covering the journey from Illinois to California, 2,500 miles, over the Great Plains, two mountain ranges, and the desert of the Great Basin. Following the timeline is a chronological list of the decedents. So, April 15th, 1846. The journey begins in Springfield, Illinois. And it lists some of the travelers, covered wagons, hired teamsters, oxen, servants. First destination of the leg is Independence, where the Oregon Trail begins. From Springfield to Independence is about 250 miles. The trip is timed to begin when the spring rains have subsided and grass for the draft animals is available, and to get there before snow makes the Sierra Nevada impassable. So the snow begins like in November in the Sierra Nevadas, according to my memory anyway, if memory serves me right. May 1846, May 10th, the Donners and Reeds arrive at Independence, Missouri, where they spend the next 2 days completing their outfits for the journey. May 19th, at Indian Creek, about 100 miles west of Independence, the Donners and the Reeds join a larger wagon train, which is led by Colonel William Henry Russell. Oh, right, because they met up and then they split off. May 27th, high water stops the Russell train at the east bank of the Big Blue River in modern-day Kansas. The emigrants build a raft to carry their wagons across. Man, that's pretty crafty. May 29th, while the emigrants are encamped, Mrs. Reed's mother, Sarah Keyes, dies of old age and is buried under a tree near Alcove Spring. Wow. And such a rough trip to make as an elderly person. May 31st, the last of the wagons are ferried across the river. At some point during the delay at the Big Blue, the Murphy family from Tennessee has joined the wagon train. J.R. Nana Boomer, hello. I'm casting Kylie Tarot reading from my computer. The reading is still casting to TV, and your what happened? And you're playing on computer. How did that happen? That's kind of cosmic, huh? You just suddenly started playing. That never happens. I didn't touch anything. Whoa, girl. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I was going to make another yoga video before I did this, but I was like, I just want to go on live first and then I'll do the yoga thing later. And just because I just feel this need to be spontaneous and just to like not be sweating it and not be trying to make things perfect. If you hear like my family in the background, I'm not going to worry about that. I never do. The only thing that worries me is that it can distract me. I'm not worried about you guys hearing it because my sound's not so great anyway. But let's see. So yeah, that is incredibly cool. That is incredibly cool. I love hearing stuff like that. So there you go. Just, allow it to happen and see what happens. Just let go and let God, right? Here we go. I already read that part, didn't I? The last of the wagons are ferried across the river. At some point during the delay at the Big Blue, the Murphy family from Tennessee joined the wagon trail. Oh, Fort Laramie. Hold on. 1846, Damson Donner, George's wife, writes that they are now at the Platte River, 200 miles from Fort Laramie in present-day Wyoming, and that the journey so far has been easier than expected. That's going to change, huh? June 18th, 1846, William Russell relinquishes his position as captain of the wagon train because he, Edwin Bryant, and others have decided to trade in their wagons and teams for mules in order to travel more quickly. They travel ahead to Fort Laramie to make the transaction. June 27th. The party in which the Donners and Reeds travel, now called the Boggs Company, named for its leader, Lilburn Boggs, a former governor of Missouri, arrives at Fort Laramie. James Reed meets James Kleiman, an old mountaineer who has just come by horse from California with Lansford Hastings by way of new route, which will soon be known as Hastings Cutoff. Kleiman urges the immigrants to avoid Hastings Cutoff and take regular route instead. July 4th, 1846, Boggs Company celebrates the 4th of July at Fort Laramie. And, every time I hear the name Fort Laramie, I think of that boy who got beaten out, like tied to a fence. You guys know who I'm talking about. Matthew. You guys remember his last name? Isn't it the kid that they made the movie Boys Don't Cry about? Pausing the Tarot to watch live, watching the world. Shepard, Bex, you're on it. Matthew Shepard. Look at you go, girl. See what I mean? See what I mean? It's such a blessing to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's continue. Here we go. 4th of July at Fort Laramie, where Matthew Shepard was beaten to his end for being not straight. It's disgusting. Okay, July 17th. And let me just say, in case anybody doesn't know this, that kind of homophobia is the first sign of a person being homosexual themselves. I don't think that that's just my opinion. I think that that's been proven scientifically for decades. So I'll just say in my opinion, though, just so I don't piss anybody off too much. Seriously, it's like, why do you care who somebody's sleeping with unless, you have a personal issue with it? Okay, so July 17th, 1846, at Independence Rock, the Boggs Company encountered a lone eastbound rider bearing an open letter from Hastings urging all immigrants now on the road to meet him at Fort Bridger so he can guide them on his cutoff. July 18th, 1846, the Boggs Company crosses the Continental Divide. They are 1,000 miles from Independence and have more than 1,000 miles to go. And J.R. Nana, Annie Ruler says, I put up a cute gal signing at the baseball game, short video, real cute. I saw that, Annie Ruler. Who was that cute girl with the cute brown hair? Was that a family member? Or if you don't want to say, that's all right. But I saw that video and I was like, man, I had still been living in Seattle when that new stadium was built, and it's really nice. Seeing a Mariners game in the new stadium is phenomenal. And then they built the new football stadium, and I got to see the Rolling Stones play there a couple of years before we moved back. Anyway, yeah. July 19th, 1846, the Boggs Company reaches the Little Sandy River, where several other wagon trains have also camped. Here, those immigrants who have decided to take Hastings' route form a new company and elect George Donner captain, thus creating the Donner Party. Do you all have your own YouTube channels? Watching the World, a lot of people do, and Annie Ruler is one of them. If you want to put your channel in, and Bex, if you want to put the hyperlink to her channel, what is it called? It's oh no, Granny Annie's traveling again, or something like that. Singing during 7th inning stretch, I told her she was on YouTube, gave her a fan. Oh, how cute. Yes. All right. Yeah, it's always imperative to get someone's consent, for sure. Absolutely. The Donner Party separates July 20th, 1846, from the other wagon trains and takes the left-hand road to Fort Bridger. July 27th, 1846, the Donner Party arrives at Fort Bridger, the corral and 2 cabins of mountaineer Jim Bridger. There, the Donner Party learns that Hastings left the previous week, leading the wagons that had already arrived and leaving instructions for later groups to follow him. The Donner Party stays 4 nights to rest their oxen and make repairs. July 31st, 1846. James Reed writes, Hastings cutoff is said to be saving of 350 or 400 miles and a better route. The rest of the Californians went the long route, feeling afraid of Hastings cutoff, but Mr. Bridger informs me that it is fine. It is a fine level road with plenty of water and grass. It is estimated that 700 miles will take us to Captain Sutter's fort, which we hope to make in 7 weeks from this day. At the fort, the emigrants take on some new members. Now numbering 74 people, the Donner Party leaves Fort Bridger and starts out on Hastings Cutoff. And then we get to August 1846. Here is Annie's channel. Oh, Granny Annie. Oh, Granny Annie is traveling again. And then thank you, Bex, for making that a hyperlink. Awesome. My channel is just a bunch of personal and what is that, gold bucket? A lot of my family stuff with one Kylie original. And let me say that Kylie original is brilliant, JR Nana Boomer. I think you just dropped it a couple of weeks ago, and it's just like 3 or 4 minutes long, and it's really good. If Bex, if you want to put the link to it in the chat, that would be awesome, because everybody should watch that and sub up. Watching, no, I'm not even tech savvy. Lucky I know how to type in chat. I know me, that's how I started. At first I didn't even know how to read chat because I would be watching it on my cell phone and I didn't have the chat. I'm like, what are people talking about? Chat what? But have noticed quite a few of those. I see in chat has started a new channel. And Bex subbed. Thank you, Bex. Woohoo. So did I, Annie. Popcorn, LOL. Oh, is that what that is? Popcorn. Thanks. Oh, is that popcorn in JR Nana Boomers? I think you're correct, Bex. Christine says, I'm too busy watching others. I know. It's so hard, like, to keep up with your own channel and to watch all the others, but it is so much fun. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, sometimes I'd rather watch other people's, sometimes I'd rather make my own. Striking the balance is the key. And yeah, it's just fun to be excited about this stuff. And, I like to say it helps keep me on top of my game, really. My channel name is easy to remember. It's just me. Yes, Popcorn. I'm trying to learn editing. The baseball one needs to be a viral short caught a lady singing. She knows she is on YouTube. That's why my videos are short. I actually know how to edit, and editing is super annoying. So I used to do it, and I still do it once in a while. What did I edit out in one of my yoga videos? I said left arm when I meant right arm, and I just like snipped the left part out. Just took 1 second out of the video, and then I didn't have to make it a whole new video. But yeah, you can also like type in words to do that. And I'm sure that there's a way to dub over it, but I'm not that fancy. I don't have all that software. Anyway, let's go with this. August 1st to the 5th, the Donner Party makes good time following the tracks of the group led by Hastings. August 6th, 1846, Donner Party stops near the mouth of Echo Canyon on the Weber River, present day in Utah. It's called Hennifer. The Weber River flows on down to the mouth of Weber Canyon at Ogden, Utah. Hastings has left a note for them, warning them that the road ahead is impassable and instructing them to send someone ahead to get instructions. James Reed and 2 others set out following the wagon tracks of Hastings' group. August 10th. Reed returns to the wagons. Hastings had accompanied Reed part way back. The men ascended a peak where Hastings pointed out an alternative route. Then they separated, Reed blazing a rough trail to his wagon train. So is Reed College in Portland, Oregon? Is that named after this guy? I bet it is. Because we got like the Lewis and Clark College is in Portland too. That's where Monica Lewinsky was going to school, I think, when she got her internship in Washington, D.C. I lived in Portland for a year, so I got pretty familiar with a bunch of that stuff. Where did I go to school there? I went to Malehurst College, south of Portland in Lake Oswego. I did some postgraduate studies there in art and psychology. And what year was it? It was like 94, 93 to 94. My husband and I lived in a nice little house right off of Powell. I think it's southeast Portland, and right around the corner from a cool little co-op. We always like to shop for groceries at co-ops back in the day. Well, it's a West Coast thing. Anyway, back on track here. Watching the World says, I have James Earl Jones' voice and very monotone. Oh, you just do it, just make the most of it. Got you too, J.R. Nana, watching. Nothing wrong with that. All I had to do to edit was delete the words, and what was left was the video. AI. I urge everyone to try it out. It's watermarked in my video. Man, yeah. I mean, AI certainly has its place. And that band that I keep talking about, AJR, they do all kinds of stuff with AI. I just wouldn't want it writing my whole video for me. Like, I don't mind reading what other people have written, but I want to just, be me. I don't want to like be artificial me. That's freaking crazy. So I guess it's the way that you use it that makes a difference too. I just think it could become a crutch, and then people would forget how to be themselves. I mean, seriously, a lot of people forget how to be themselves anyway, right? And then especially when you're on a larger platform and you get nervous and you want everyone to like you. And so you just want to do whatever it takes to become everyone's favorite. And like, who cares about ethics and morals and originality and what your actual motivation was? Like, all that goes out the window. Click, 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 like. I mean, seriously, that happens to people. Oh, I think it's called selling out, right? There's a little phrase for it. Okay. What else? Let me get caught up. You guys have so many great comments. I don't like to miss them. All I had to do, okay, read that one. Watching, use it to your advantage, narrate spooky, LOL, Christine, unless you're a female. I always have goofy stuff going on, strange stories, now catching them on film, be on road, most sharing in time. I used to love Oregon, my favorite state. I loved Oregon until I lived there for a year, and living there ruined it. I could tell you a few stories about that, but I'm trying to stay focused. Tangent. It was the year Bob Packwood, Tanya Harding, and this other insane thing that happened in Grants Pass, Oregon, that I'll have to make a whole video about that. It was a bad year for Oregon, and it was kind of funny that happened to be the year that we lived there. Everybody remember Packwood? We all remember Tanya, of course. I got to see her practicing in person, and she was extremely impressive. I wasn't a fan because it was during the investigation part, and I figured she was guilty. But if you haven't seen that movie, I, Tanya, I highly recommend it. And I am a fan of hers now, actually. I actually kind of became a fan watching her practice, even though I thought she was guilty. I was like, damn, that girl's good. Yeah, she like invented the quadruple axle or whatever. Triple axle. I think she went from triple to quadruple. And now we're in the Olympics again. Too awesome. And when are they going to start the breakdancing in the Olympics, you guys? They don't call it breakdancing, they just call it breaking. But this is the first year of breaking in the Olympics, and I can't wait personally. Honestly, avoid AI, read narrated videos. Yeah, I would think that would be smart. Yeah. And yeah, I know some content creators use the AI voices, and sometimes I'm okay with it, but overall it does creep me out. We're all just going to become a bunch of brains in jars with artificial intelligence doing everything for us, right? Isn't that the future? Okay. Um, what software I need to cut beginning and end off in YouTube bot music? Oh, cool. Yeah, I just use the software that's like built in with YouTube. But yeah, I think like CapCut is good and maybe StreamYard. I'm not sure. I know CapCut is what Paula Plunder told me she uses. So I figured that that would be the one I would probably go with if I ever do that. Um, and I have small, colorful fans stamped with website name. Film families are given fans. Oh, how cute. That's smart, Annie. You got it going on. Younger generation doesn't like talking on phone. They text, but be real, be you. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, technology is pretty cool if you can figure out how to use it. And again, my new favorite band, AJR, a lot of their songs are about the technology, and like some of the lyrics from one of the songs are like, I woke up hating Twitter, being angry at Twitter. And what's my password again? Does it start with a one or a two? I mean, they're just crafty, really crafty. They're about 30. Uh, anyway, the brothers met. Um, let's see. Brain in jar, no more working out. JR Nana, you're totally a comedian. I love it. That is great. That is great. I have some old friends refuse smartphones to make us not text, like to talk. I forgot what I have said though. I had been lamenting and cursing my smartphone ever since I was forced away from my what did you call those things? Flip phones. I loved those. And I loved the phone that I had right before I was literally forced by my carrier to give it back to them and get a smartphone. And smartphones are cool. They do a lot, but they also, you know, there's that conspiracy that they might cause cancer. I don't know. I do not know. Um, let's see. And yeah, I used to feel the same way before I texted. I was like, yeah, texting's great if you don't want to talk to your friends, right? But I'm all about the texting, of course, because I don't need to talk to my friends. I just need to send them a text or two. My sister in law is one of the first female pole vaulters to compete in the Olympics, and my brother went to Sydney as PT for boxers. That is where they met. Oh, how amazing is that? And don't forget that Kate Cunio's grandmother was a downhill skier for the Olympics, wasn't she? Kate Cunio from the Kylie Rodney case, and that's the case that we're reading this about Donner Party for. Um, let's see, Dr. Hafar, Martin. I love Steve Martin, movie man with two brains. Yeah. Do you guys hear the bird call right outside the window? Did you hear that? I hope you can hear it. It sounds like I'm in a tropical rainforest, which maybe I am right here in Ohio. Tech is great. I have my grands teach me what you can do with it. LOL. I know the kids are just natural with it. It's all very intuitive. What software do you use for Idaho video? Um, Flip phone, way more space age Star Trek. Well, and they were just cute. I liked the size of them and the shape of them more better as well. I use grandkids to teach me when I'm stuck as well. I know I called my family my IT crew, in case you guys hadn't caught on to that. My husband's part of the IT crew too, even though he's about the same age as me. He's much hipper with that stuff. I mean, being in the fields that he's in, he has to be basically as a first responder. I use grandkids. Okay, let's see. Must be a fit couple. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And Let me be caught up and get back to this. I do not. I'm jealous. A loved one is talking to you. What was this about, Jazz? I'm late. We're just being real. We're just keeping it real. I'm reading the history of the Donner Party, the timeline, as an answer to Mr. Mark's question on one of his last videos from, I think, about 24 hours ago, where he was trying to remember when the Donner Party was, and it was 1846, 1847. Um, let's see. Mine are so busy now with work and college. I use YouTube, but my brain is just confused. Um, so when the case first started with Kylie Rodney, I thought, cool that I'd been to Donner Lake a number of times and I'd been to North Star a number of times to ski. I skied once at Sugar Bowl, but hanging out in Truckee, literally hanging out in Truckee. Um, and that was in the 90s. And I thought about the history of Truckee and the Donner Party and what I knew from my own experience there. And I didn't think it was relevant to the case. And I remember when I first started talking about it, just because I thought it was interesting, I thought it was curious. And then pretty quickly, I did feel like it was relevant to the case because just that dog eat dog mentality and the way the community of Truckee, in my experience, the way they referred to the Donner Party incident as something to be laughed at rather than something horrifying. Like the rest of the world thinks of it as like one of the biggest human tragedies of all human existence. And people in Truckee just think it's cute. So, in my opinion, in my experience. Anyway, it was about the bird singing outside the window. Um, yes, the topic is changing moment by moment because we're doing improv and we're just really, in the moment, right? One sec. So let's get done with this part. The historical. It's good to know history. History repeats itself. It really does. So did I read this already? The August 29th, 1846, emigrants stay in camp, collecting as much water and grass as possible for the drive ahead. I think that's right where I left off. August 30th, the Donner Party reaches Redlam Spring, the last source of water before the dry drive begins, then sets out to cross the Great Salt Lake Desert. That's scary. No water. Yikes. Okay, September 3rd, on the third day in the desert, the water runs out. That night, the Reeds' thirsty oxen run off, never to be found. The Reeds take a few things and set out on foot. Holy crap, Batman. September 8th. And like I knew there was a bunch of disasters, but I didn't know that like the disaster was running out of water and the ox taken off. September 8th, emigrants finished the 5-day journey across the 80-mile desert, which Hastings had said was half as wide. They have lost 36 head of cattle, half of them reeds, and 4 wagons have to be abandoned. They spend the next week at the foot of Pilot Peak, recuperating from their ordeal, hunting for cattle, and caching their possessions. Caching, Caching, caching their possessions. Maybe is that like ditching? I don't know, like paring down maybe. Um, September 10th, the Donner Party sets out again after taking an inventory of their supplies. The immigrants have realized that they don't have enough food to get them to California and have sent Charles Stanton and William McCutcheon ahead to Sutter's Fort to request more. September 26th, the party arrives at Humboldt River where the cutoff meets the standard trail, which is actually 125 miles shorter than Hastings cutoff. Two Native Americans join the party for a while and are fed. They were thought to have stolen one of Mr. Graves' shirts one night. Is that why they ate him? Funny, not funny. October 5th, while struggling up a standy hill at Iron Point, Nevada, the Reed and Graves teams become entangled. A fight breaks out between Milt Elliott, Reed's teamster, and John Schneider driving the Graves wagon. When Reed intervenes with his knife to cut the team, Schneider grows angrier and hits Reed on the head with his whip handle. The handle breaks into Reed's skull and causes the red stuff. With Schneider about to strike again, Reed stabs him in the chest with his hunting knife. Schneider stumbles some feet up the hill and overreacts and unalives himself. Louis Kesselberg once suggested to hang Reed, but the emigrants decided to banish Reed, who at first refuses to leave but then agrees. October 6th, Reed heads west. The following day, he overtakes Donners, who had moved ahead of the rest of the party. One of Reed's teamsters, Walter Heron, has been traveling with the Donners. He decides to accompany Reed to California. Knowing that time is running out, the emigrants travel as quickly as possible along the Humboldt River. October 7th, Louis Kesberg turns Mr. Hardcoop, an elderly Belgian traveling with him, out of his wagon to lighten the load. Turns him out of the wagon to lighten the load. Everyone who can is walking. Hardcoop gives out, but nobody can take him in. He is last seen sitting by the road. Is that so effing sad? Talk about the dog eat dog, right? I mean, October 11th. At night, I'm not sure if I'm saying this name right, the Polit Indians unalive 21 of the Donner Party's oxen. Shortly thereafter, the natives steal another 18 oxen and wound several others. More than 100 of the party's cattle are now gone. About October 13th, since the natives have killed almost all of his cattle, a German emigrant named Wolfinger stops at the Humboldt Sink to cache his wagon. Two men, Joseph Reinhardt and Augustus Spitzer, stay behind to help but return without him, saying that he has been killed by natives. Reinhardt later confesses to having unalived Wolfinger. Oh, blame it on the natives. There you go. What have I missed here? What about your birds singing outside? Okay. Donner Party, they skipped August completely. No, I had August in here. They could have eaten like kings and lost everything. Cachet bearing. Thank you. You're so awesome. And yeah, I should have known that from when that was like such a thing, right? Where everybody was doing that thing a few years ago. To get that far and be tossed aside, thanks for reading this good history lesson. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Gruesome history. I'm reading it for myself, really, because I've always been super curious about it. And so I thought it would be good to share it, but I'm fascinated. So I'm glad that you are enjoying it, Bex, as well. I hope other people are too. Let's see. And I'll put a link to it, of course, in the description. Well, let's see what else. So yeah, blaming it on the natives. Okay, the August 16th, the Donner Party arrives at Truckee River, which will lead them into the Sierra Nevada. October, John Breen later recalled of this time the weather was already very cold and the heavy clouds hanging over the mountains to the west were strong indications of an approaching winter. Yeah, October. Come on. Yeah, there you go. Some wanted to stop and rest their cattle. Others, in fear of the snow, were in favor of pushing ahead as fast as possible. That's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, really. And pick your poison. About October 25th, the emigrants' food is almost depleted when Charles Stanton returns from Sutter's Fort. He brings 7 mules loaded with provisions and 2 Native American guides, Lewis and Salvador, plus the news that the pass through the Sierras should be open for another month. William McCutcheon, who had accompanied him to California, is ill and remains at Sutter's Fort. October 28th, James Reed arrives at Sutter's Fort. The 30th, William Foster accidentally shoots his brother-in-law, William Pike, who dies a short time later. Snow falls during his burial in Truckee Canyon. About this date, Reed and McCutcheon get horses and supplies from Sutter and head back into the mountains after their families. They meet deep snow and are unable to continue, so they cache the provisions and return to the fort to await another opportunity. The 31st. So Halloween. The front axle of George Donner's family wagon breaks. While making a new one, George cuts his hand badly. George and Jacob's group lags behind while the rest of the party moves on. And so early November, Patrick Breen wrote of this time, we push on as fast as our failing cattle could haul our almost empty wagons. At last, we reached the foot of the main ridge near Truckee, now Donner Lake. It was sundown. The weather was clear, but a large circle around the moon indicated an approaching storm. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. The emigrants spend the night at the lake 1,000 feet below the summit. During the night, it begins snowing on the summit. Early November, in the morning, the emigrants try to make it over the pass, but the snow is already 5 feet deep. Stanton and one of the 2 native guides do reach the summit, but turn back. The others are too exhausted to push on. Night finds the emigrants huddled against the mountain in a windy storm of snow and sleet. Sleet, some nasty stuff. The next day, temporarily defeated, they return to the eastern end of the lake. They have traveled 2,500 miles and are only 150 miles from Sutter's Fort. The Donners, held up by the accident, are still behind. November 6th, at Sutter's Fort, George McKinstry writes, all things remain quiet here. The weather is bad. I'm fearful the snow is too deep for the last company of emigrants to cross the mountains. And he was right. And yeah, Gruesome History. Isn't there like a channel called that? Gruesome History? Or maybe like a TV show or something. Remember reading this story in the 4th grade, but not any details. Wow, that's awesome. Were you in California in the 4th grade? I don't remember ever learning about it in school. Book reading contest. I read a lot of things. Oh, okay. You selected that. I remember playing Oregon Trail in grade school. It was on a floppy disk. Yes, Bex, that's 2 part of history class. Oh, very awesome, you guys. Okay, where was I? Right here. November. The 2 sections of the Donner Party camp for this winter. Near the lake, the Breen family takes shelter in an abandoned cabin against which Louis Kesberg builds a lean-to. Lean-tos are very cool. About 200 yards away, William Eddy and William Foster build a cabin against a boulder for the Eddys, Fosters, Murphys, and Pikes. The Graves and Reed families occupy 2 sides of a double cabin about half a mile away from the other 2. About 6 miles back on Alder Creek, the 2 Donner families set up a tent apiece. The single men accompanying them construct a brush shelter. And November 20th, Patrick Breen begins keeping a diary. Came to this place on the 31st of last month that it snowed. We went on to the pass. The snow so deep we were unable to find the road. Oh, see, that's scary right there, losing the road. When within 3 miles of the summit, then turned back to this shanty on the lake. We have now unalived most part of our cattle, having to stay here until next spring and live on poor beef without bread or salt. It snowed during the space of 8 days with little intermission after our arrival here. Patrick, wow. It snowed pretty much 8 days straight. That's serious. Okay, in the Sierra Nevadas, right there. Patrick Breen's diary, November 21st. Fine morning, wind northwest of our company are about starting across the mountain this morning, including Stanton and his natives. November 22nd, Patrick Breen's diary, froze hard last night. This a fine clear morning. Wind east, southeast, no account from those on the mountains. And then the 23rd, Patrick Breen's diary, same weather, wind west. The expedition across the mountains returned after an unsuccessful attempt. The 24th, Patrick Breen's diary, fine in the morning towards the evening. So this is where they got stuck for the next 4 months. So I won't read all of this basically. So then we get into December, and it's just like talking about weather all the way through November, December. They're just stuck. So even on the beautiful days, of course, they're just stuck. Stuck, still, stuck again. Okay, here's Christmas. Margaret Reed saves food for Christmas, which delights her 4 children as they eat. Like, how would they know it was Christmas? That's crazy. Like, wouldn't they be losing track of days? And maybe that's just what day they thought it was. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Because yeah, they all got like delusional too. Like they all lost track of reality completely. Like that was the scariest part of the whole Donner Party escapade. Let's see. I was in California too, part of history. I was nowhere near California. I'm age 64. Yeah, I'm age 56. And I went to school in California for like first grade, third grade, fourth grade through ninth grade. All that moving back and forth. I learned this in elementary school too, and then graduate school in San Francisco. California, Southern California, learned about the missions, gold rush, and how Californians arrived. I know the missions are cool, Northern and Southern California. Hello, Sherry. Nice to see you. July 24th, 1960. Oh, that's your birthday, J.R. Nana Boomer. Fourth grade for me, too. We've learned the story, but no details like this. Yep, I'm just reading off the interweb. This is why I love that we have so much information at our fingertips. It's way cool. Cannot imagine traveling like this, just have to say. Yeah. And then like that sleet, that really gets me because I don't mind cold, but sleet is some nasty stuff. It's like smacking you with the cold. It's like Jack Frost smacking you across the face and kicking your rear end. My children still played the Oregon Trail when they were in school here, part of history class. I was born in East LA County, Bellflower. Grandparents bought house off LA Airport runway to move it to Hawaiian Gardens. That's awesome. Happy birthday, JR Nana. Yeah, that was the day before yesterday. Happy belated birthday. Older than all of you, Christine says. Well, older and wiser, right? 2 feet of snowstorm in a wagon, no way. I would. Yeah, I mean, when I've been in Tahoe, it's the only time that I've seen like literally like 10 feet of snow. And I used to post pictures on my YouTube to try to help people understand like 20 feet, 40 feet. You get the snow plows on the roads, and then you get this like wall of snow that's literally like 10 to maybe even like 50 feet tall. It's unreal. I've never seen anything like it until Tahoe. And the way people just like bulldoze or snowplow their the pathway from their driveway to their front door, and you've got like a wall of like 10 or 15 feet of snow on each side. And you wonder why they have so many people pass away in avalanches up there. I mean, because that's just how you have to get around. Okay, so Christmas Day. Let me just read what they have from Christmas Day, other than delighting the children. Patrick Breen's diary began to snow yesterday about 12 o'clock, snowed all night, and snows yet rapidly. Wind east by north, great difficulty in getting wood. John and Edwin has to get, I am not able. Offered our prayers to God this Christmas morning. The prospect is appalling, but hope in God. Amen. Snowshoers at Camp of Death. Patrick Dolan dies of hypothermia, saying it was as warm as a summer day. Young Lemuel Murphy dies of starvation on Christmas Day. Wow. And then, is this the day after Christmas? The snowshoers resort to cannibalism, averting their faces from one another, weeping. Holy crap, you guys. The 27th, Patrick Breen's diary continues clear, froze hard last night, snow very deep, thawing a little in the sun, scarce of wood. Today, chop a tree down. It sinks in snow and is hard to be got. And then Charles Berger dies in the lean-to on the 29th, about the 30th. The forlorn hopes human meat is gone. William Foster suggests that Lewis and Salvador be unalive for food. That's the natives. William Eddy disagrees and tells Foster's ideas to the natives, who initially are incredulous, then vanish into the woods. December 31st, Patrick Breen's diary. Last day of the year, may we, with God's help, spend the coming year better than the past, which we purpose to do if Almighty God will deliver us from our present dreadful situation, which is our prayer if the will of God sees it fit for us. And then New Year's Day, we pray God of mercy to deliver us from our present calamity, if it be his holy will. Commenced snowing last night, does not snow fast. Sun peeps out at times, provisions get scant. Dug up a hide from under the snow yesterday for Milt, did not take it yet. January 3rd, Mrs. Reed talks of crossing the mountains with her children, provisions scarce. January 7th, snowshoers. About this time, William Eddy kills a deer, but too late to save Joy Fosdick, who dies in the night. Patrick Breen's diary, January 8th. Mrs. Reed and company came back this morning, could not find their way on the other side of the mountain. They have nothing but hides to live on. Martha is to stay here. Milton, Eliza go to Donner's. Mrs. Reed and the two boys going to their own shanty and Virginia. Prospects dull. May God relieve us from all this difficulty if it is his holy will. January 9th, snowshoers. About this time, the surviving snowshoers come upon Lewis and Salvador, laying exhausted and near death. William Foster shoots them, believing their flesh was the rest of the group's last hope of avoiding imminent death from starvation. January 10th, the Mexicans lose Los Angeles, California to the United States Marines. This is January 10th, 1847. The war in California is essentially over, freeing men and supplies for another rescue attempt. The snowshoers reach an Indian village whose inhabitants share their meager supplies, chiefly acorn bread. That's January 12th. And then the 17th, Eliza came here this morning, sent her back again to the graves. Lantham crazy last night. So Bill says Keyberg sent Bill to get hides off his shanty and carry them home this morning. Provisions scarce. Hides are the only article we depend on. We have a little meat yet. May God send us help. Snowshoers. About this date, the travelers reach another Indian village. Foster and the 5 women are too weak to continue. January 18th. So I don't know if we need to keep going through this blow by blow. I don't think so. I mean, this is just how much trouble they had getting the help from January into February. And let's see. So early February, rescuer Daniel Rhodes remembered they gave the alarm that the people would all die without assistance. It was 2 weeks before any person would consent to go. Finally, we concluded we would go or die trying, for not to make any attempt to save them would be a disgrace to us in California as long as time lasted. John Sutter, proprietor of Sutter's Fort, and Captain Edward Kern, the fort's temporary commander, offered $3 a day to anyone who will join the rescue party. Okay, so all the rescuing stuff. I'm just going to fast forward through all this and be done with the history here. The gruesome history. Okay, so it goes through February into March. And then April. Wow, so it goes all the way into April. Oh, and then June. Well, that's when they're like the aftermath. So April 17th, Louis Kesberg, surrounded by half-eaten corpses, is the only one alive. Oh my God. April 21st, the 4th relief leaves the lake with Kesberg in tow. The last member of the Donner Party, Louis Kesberg, arrives at Sutter's Fort. So he's the last one to be rescued on April 17th. And then on June 22nd, Stephen Watts Kearney reaches what he calls the cannibal camp. And Mormon battalion veterans in his party gather the remains into the Breen cabin. The bodies are buried there, and the cabin is then set afire. Mortality summary. I'll just read the mortality summary real quick and trying to keep up with you so I don't lose track. Where were we? I lost track. There we go. The 2 feet of snow. I remember reading that one. Still learning. Yes, Christine. Absolutely. Always still learning. So much to learn. Didn't they say they lost their oxen and then later they said natives took them? Well, there was a lot of the oxen. So yeah. 7 people here, 7 likes. Thank you for hitting the like. Yes. Thanks for that reminder, Bex. Have surgery August 14th, had days mixed up, thought it was the 19th, but can't come none too soon. Getting into pain every day now, but still getting by. Thank you for asking. Oh, Christine. Oh, surgery is rough. What type of surgery, if you want to share? And yeah, let's all pray for Christine and the surgery coming up in a few weeks. And the deer was saved for later. And let's see. Lower half of Cali used to belong to Mexico. What date? Oh, of August for her surgery, or no, Christine's the one with the surgery. What are you asking? What date? Let's see. April 17th. Okay. Who led them into the mountain at that time of the year? Who was Trail Boss? I forget. Trail Boss. I love that. Well, I'm going to just venture to guess Donner, but yeah. So I was just going to read you the mortality summary and then be done with this. I watched the movie on YouTube. It was so sad. Total hip replacement. Oh, Christine, well, total hip replacement's not as bad as knee replacement. From what I hear, it's a much easier road to recovery. And that's good that you're doing it, right? Okay, so let's see. There were 87 in the Donner Party, plus the two natives, the two California natives who joined them in Nevada, for a total of 89. Of the 89, a net of 81 people were trapped in the mountains due to additions and departures from the group during the journey. Of the total 89 people, 41 passed and 48 survived. Of the original 87, 39 passed and 48 survived. Of the 81 trapped in the mountains, 36 passed and 45 survived. About 2/3 of the women and children survived, while about 2/3 of the men passed. All four Donner adults, the couples George and Tamsin Donner and Jacob and Elizabeth Donner, passed. Most of the Reeds and all of the Breens survived. Wow, that was a lot of history. And yeah, we're already over an hour. So there was another thing that I was going to read to you guys. And sorry, I need to scratch my nose. Let me grab this napkin because it's itchy and that's kind of gross to do that on screen. I don't like watching anybody do that. I don't mind so much in real life, but watching somebody on screen is kind of cringeworthy. So excuse me. Sorry about that. You know, noses happen. So let's talk about JP and his nose, because he kept doing that so many times. Like, it was so bizarre to watch him, was it not? A lot of people have been talking about it in their videos. JP Miller in the Micah Miller case. And I guess we're going to get a second part of that interview, of the News Nation interview. I can't imagine what in the world was going on with his nose. I mean, to be open-minded, of course it could be allergies. Somebody made a comment in my comment section on one of my videos about how it's called the Pinocchio effect, that things stimulate in your nose, like the capillaries shrink and dilate from telling untruths. And I think I have a vague recollection of hearing that before. I know I've heard of the Pinocchio effect before. So yeah, let's see. Because he is a liar, pants on fire. And yeah, this most recent news that you guys have probably caught wind of today on YouTube about the person that Micah was maybe kissing on March 11th. You know, I think it's important to put March 11th into the context of April 27th, because what is that? Just like 6 weeks? So JP, who's like cheating on Micah constantly, it sounds like, is completely beside himself that Micah was kissing another person, even though he's allegedly brought SEX workers to get involved physically with the two of them. But I guess you don't kiss when you do that, right? That's like off limits. So disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And just really sad that to me, it's really sad that that's getting aired, you know, kind of airing Micah's dirty laundry, because of course she's not perfect. And of course people are going to look at that and go, oh, well then, you know, tit for tat or whatever. No, I mean, she was trying to end her marriage and she was trying to move forward with her life. And it's just disgusting to me that JP was making such a big deal about, you know, for weeks and weeks. He's like, remember March 11th, that day is going to keep coming back. And I remember things that he said about, you know, he shouldn't have done what he did on March 11th. So I thought, to me, it was sounding like he was doing something with somebody else, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to follow any of his mess. So one of the things in Micah's case, and I hope you don't mind if I just jump straight over into it since we've spent over an hour on all of that history of the Donner Party, and I do want to talk about these other cases too. That in the Micah Miller case, the allegations are that there was no cell phone reception at the park that her remains were found in. So we all know the 911 call that was allegedly made from her phone, that was allegedly her, that some people think is artificial intelligence. And I've heard many people say that there's no cell phone reception from that park, Lumber River State Park. So I've never been there, so I don't know. So anybody who has been there or who can go and want to check cell reception, I think that's a valid point. Um, but one of JP's many, many tells, other than the touching of the nose and, if he's flapping his lips, to me, that's a tell that he's lying, right? If his mouth is moving, he's more than likely lying. But one of the tells that he is so guilty of what I suspect he's guilty of and what many of us suspect that he's guilty of is just like in the Kylie Rodney case, the not lamenting about his failed marriage, the not lamenting about what he could have done differently in order to have that outcome be diverted. If you lose a loved one, you're going to be beating your head against the wall with the woulda, shoulda, couldas. And I've always said that about Kylie Rodney's mother. I've said that about Jägermeister. I've been thinking it about JP, but I haven't said it yet. So, yeah, there's the just the fact that he's always talking about himself, and even when he makes his announcement of her passing the morning after, and he says to pray for him and pray for his family, not to pray for her and to pray for her family, but to pray for him and his family. I mean, that's just so sick. Absolutely sick. So another issue that Mr. Mark brings up in his video about Kylie, and I think this is really important, is his inquisition about, did she have an alternative source of income? Because apparently she resigned from her position at the fancy tea shop. So that's a really good question. Really good question. So I also wanted to speak to the Taylor Casey case and also Idaho 4, and we're at about an hour and 15 minutes. So in the Taylor Casey case, the woman who went missing when she was 41 years old, who turned 42 during this period of time that she's been missing. So she's from Chicago. She went to the yoga retreat center in the Bahamas to become, it was a YTT program. Is that right? Yoga teacher certification? Yoga teacher training, YTT. Like I said, it's the same one I did, so I should know what that stands for. But the one that I did stretched out over 10 months. It's a 200-hour YTT training program. I know that that's the training program she did because in all of the pictures of her there in her yellow t-shirt and white pants, that was the required uniform, it says YTT 200-hour training camp right on the t-shirt. So that's my source of information for that. So it was like a crash course, basically a month long, where you're doing like 50 hours a week. So that's all you're doing for the entire month at this on Paradise Island in the Bahamas at this yoga retreat center. So there's this other man that maybe you've heard of in relationship to Taylor Casey's case. And I was going to read you the article about it, but I do kind of need to rest my voice after all that reading. And I don't know that, let me see. The article is basically about Wesley Bell, and it's a current article, sort of loosely tying the two cases together, but not really tying the two cases together, because it's believed that he went snorkeling and drowned. But what I find really striking about the two cases is that they were both 41 years old exactly on the days that they went missing. So it could be a coincidence, but it could be something else too, that, just in the prime of their adult life, basically. Let's see. JP, does he use the Coca-Cola? Sherry, I believe that he probably uses it, and that he might even traffic it as a source of income, because that's an expensive thing to be addicted to. So, and I honestly, I think that was my first thought when he bought the plane, the little the little Cessna jet was that for trafficking? Like, I was thinking human trafficking, but also, right there on the coast of South Carolina, there's so much of that in Florida, along the coastline of Florida. Planes and boats. I mean, that's how they bring it in. Rugs can make nose itchy too. Yeah, they sure can, can't they? Wasn't he already on to grooming his next minor by then? Oh, he's so gross. He's so gross. Lies like a rug. I like that. In defense of Lindsay, what we see is a fragment of a second of what's going on. Maybe she did say those things. Maybe she's cried so much she can't tell if tears are falling or not. I think that that's really valid to consider and look at, JR Nana. However, I have a very strong opinion about Lindsay and her vindictive behavior on the day of her daughter's celebration of life, and just the lack of lamenting, the lack of wanting answers, the lack of rage when law enforcement wouldn't do an Amber Alert. I mean, that's where we should have seen, the mama bear come out and rage. But she was over it. She was just like, oh, okay. I mean, that was crazy. So I can't get over her. I can't get over being highly suspicious of her. Highly, highly suspicious. How long was Kylie not working at the tea shop before her demise? Very good question, Christine. And I don't know. I don't know if Shan might have that information, or if Mark has dug that up. Because I didn't even know she wasn't working there anymore. Honestly, I did not know that. And so I personally don't have the information of whether she was or wasn't. I thought she had worked there for over a year, like maybe 16 months comes to mind for some reason. You can do it, Jazz. Oh, you mean reading some more? Let me drink some more. It's a good thing I refilled my ice water right before I started, because I wasn't going to, but it was running super low. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to keep reading without it. At the same place as her. Yes, watching the world at the same place as her. Thank you. Did I not mention that? At the exact same place? So let me read that article. In my opinion, let's see what Christine has to say. She was getting ready to go off to college and just took a break to hang with friends. Yeah. So, and then I also wanted to make mention of the Idaho 4 case before we're totally done for the day. But let me get to this article about uh, the Texas man that vanished years ago, 10 years before the Chicago woman. So this is the title of it. And again, I'll put a link to this in the description. This is NBC News. Texas man vanished from same Bahamas yoga retreat 10 years before Chicago woman. And it's actually 11 years to be exact. Because I was going to say, wait a second, that's weird. Exactly 10 years? So 11 years. We had a snowstorm. I called 3 counties law enforcement offices 20 different times when my kid was 30 minutes late getting home. Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think I would have even been able to sleep knowing that my 16-year-old daughter wasn't home yet. You know, not me. Okay, let's see. A Texas man went missing more than 10 years ago from the same Bahamas yoga retreat where a Chicago woman vanished last month. This article is from yesterday. It's from July 25th. Let's see. A spokesperson for the retreat confirmed. So that's from a spokesperson at the retreat. Wesley Bell was last seen alive while attending a yoga retreat on Paradise Island in Nassau on January 25th, 2013, according to a missing persons flyer released by the police at that time. He was attending a retreat at the, I don't know how to say it, Savanada Ashram Yoga Retreat, Bahamas, the same site where Taylor Casey, 42, so now she's 42, but she was 41 when she went missing last month, according to the retreat spokesperson Jonathan Goldblum. After an extensive search, the Bahamian police determined that he had drowned, Goldblum said Wednesday. He then referred NBC News to the Royal Bahamas Police Force. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has not responded to multiple requests for comment from NBC's News Digital over a span of nearly 2 weeks. The U.S. Embassy in the Bahamas did not return a request for comment on Bell's missing person case. It appears there is no evidence of foul play in Bell's case, though police have not commented on the matter. In a brief phone call, his father, Don Bell, said he believes his son drowned in the water and added that authorities couldn't find him. Bell's mother, Marie Bell, said she had not heard about Taylor Casey going missing from the same retreat. The Bells declined to comment further and also referred NBC News to the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the U.S. Embassy. The Ashram Yoga Retreat Bahamas has been featured in the New York Times, Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, and HuffPost as a top travel destination. From 2012 to 2019, the retreat received a TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence annually. Goop appears to have taken down its review of the retreat since the initial reports of Casey's disappearance. Daniel Ward Packard, who lives in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, said she was at the Ashram Yoga Retreat when Bell went missing in 2013. She remembers Bell as always happy, having great energy, and adding that they were acquaintances rather than friends. Bell walked off by himself to go snorkeling one day and never returned, she said, adding that his shoes, shirt, and hat were found on the beach the next day. People were traumatized, she said. It's a beautiful place. Everybody is having an amazing yoga experience in this gorgeous location, and then somebody's gone. She said she believes Bell drowned and cautioned against connecting Bell to Casey's missing persons case. People are turning a coincidence into a conspiracy, she said, referring to posts on social media. I can't even imagine how they would be related. Well, I can imagine how they could potentially be related if there's some horrible activity going on where they're kidnapping people. I mean, I'll just say it. It sounds completely outlandish, but these things happen, unfortunately. She added that she's always felt safe at the retreat and has been back at least twice since Belle's disappearance. The Bahamas has one of the highest levels of unintentional drownings in the Americas, according to the Pan American Health Organization, a United Nations Health Agency. For every 100,000 people, there were 6.4 unintentional drownings in the country, compared to 1.8 in the region throughout 2019, the agency found. New interest in Belle's disappearance comes weeks after Casey disappeared from the retreat. Casey, who is Black and transgender, disappeared June 19th, about halfway through a month-long yoga instructor program at the retreat site. Her disappearance generated national headlines for several weeks. And sadly, not so much anymore. We're not hearing anything about it, but it was just written yesterday, so I'm grateful for that. Police have not indicated that there's any evidence of foul play in Casey's disappearance. While they discovered her phone about 50 feet out into the ocean, they have not been able to get inside the device. They shouldn't have to get inside the device, should they? Like the cloud? Ever heard of the cloud? Several days after she was reported missing to police, Casey's friends and family went to the site of the yoga retreat to meet with investigators and assist in the search. They cleared out the tent Casey was staying in, which they said still contained most of her personal belongings. However, they did not find her passport. I missed that when I reviewed this article. I didn't get to that part. That's huge. They didn't find her freaking passport? That's bizarre. I mean, that's a clue. Big time. Big time. And let's see. I was a complete basket case and he was so mad at me. Oh, watching the world. Yeah. Yeah, when there's a big snowstorm, that's scary. People are out on the road. I go into a panic at the slightest break in routine. My kids know it. Call or I will come find you, and I may bring the devil with me. Well, and with cell phones, we should be able to call and text so that we know what's going on, right? They're all adults, and I am still that way. Maybe Danielle is not near 41 or past it. Danielle. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know how old she is. I'm just looking back through the article. So that part about the passport, that's wild. How did they find her phone out in 50 feet in the ocean? Such a good question, watching the world. I would imagine looking for her, maybe. But yeah, depending on what kind of phone it is, maybe it could have been pinged, but I'm not sure. Who found it? It's a good question. The friend in Wisconsin. Yeah. So the thing that I didn't like about the way they presented the information of her phone being found in the water is that it seemed like they were using that to be evidence supporting of the theory that she drowned, when she's not going to take her freaking phone in the water with her unless she was like, drug out into the water by accident with her phone in her hand. She's not going to go swimming with her phone. To me, that's like somebody ditched her phone in the water because they wanted to destroy it. They wanted to hide it, basically. That's what I think. The friend in Wisconsin, so she didn't have to worry about being a target. Thank you for explaining that, watching the world, because I wasn't quite getting the connection. Yeah. And she didn't have to worry about being the target. Truckee couldn't find a whole vehicle in 14 feet of water. Watching the world, such a great analogy there, drawing the parallels. Absolutely. Casey's friends and family have repeatedly questioned in media interviews and public remarks the competence of police and actions of retreat staff during the investigation into Casey's disappearance. On Wednesday, Colette Seymour, Casey's mother, said the retreat staff told them that no one had gone missing from the site before her daughter. Okay. I don't understand how they found that phone either at all. Yeah. Let's see. Let me highlight that one. They told us one thing, but we found out another, Seymour said. She added that she had not heard from Bell's family and declined to speculate about his missing persons case. When asked about the apparent discrepancy, Goldblum said in an email that Bell's disappearance was public knowledge and well publicized at the time. He added that retreat staff cooperated fully with the investigation. Well, they were very secretive about Taylor Casey's disappearance, and they instructed other attendants of the retreat to not discuss it amongst themselves, and which kind of is like JP, and also to not allow any of not to allow themselves to be interviewed by media, basically. So I want to say Bahamian officials responded to what Casey's family and friends have said to the press in a statement issued earlier this month, saying the facts as they are now established do not bear the interpretations which are being described in the U.S. media and being advanced by various spokesperson. That's weird because I don't even see what they're talking about. We urge those making comments, therefore, not to prejudge this investigation by making comments that are manifestly prejudicial and untrue. The Consul General of the Bahamas in Washington, D.C., wrote in the July 14 statement. The ashram yoga retreat has also consistently defended its actions in the days and weeks following Casey's disappearance, and a spokesman for the retreat said that the police have advised that they believe that Taylor left the ashram voluntarily. And let's just say that she did. Let's say she left voluntarily to meet up with somebody, like the alleged American man in the black what was it? A Colts hat, a baseball cap or something like that. And let's say that she left her tent intentionally on purpose and everything was fine and cool, but then she ran into danger, whether she was out hiking and rolled her ankle and fell down a cliff, or that she was abducted, or various other possibilities. Her leaving the retreat center on her own accord doesn't indicate that there's no foul play, is what I'm trying to say. And it also doesn't indicate that that means everything's okay. She still could have met with danger of the accidental type or of the evil type, obviously. Wouldn't the current take it away very quickly? Well, I think the way that the ocean floor is in that area is that it drops off really quickly. Like, I've looked at pictures taken from above, probably with drones, and the water gets really deep really fast. Like, there's like a bay by the giant pink resort that has a nice shallow area for quite a while, and then it drops off. But all around there, it just drops right off. So, yeah. the waves coming in or going out would have buried it deeply or washed it to shore. It's a very good observation, watching the world. Then it should do that with her body as well. Yes, good point. Very good point. If her body were actually in the water freely and not anchored somewhere, right? And maybe it's not in the water. Maybe she went for a hike and is, out in the jungle somewhere. I don't know what the terrain there is like, but um, yeah. And we also know that there's a lot of crimes committed against Americans and against tourists. And we also know that the retreat center is primarily white and racist, possibly, and also has issues with people that aren't straight. So, allegedly, from what I hear from people who've been there and have talked about it on other channels. So I will link a couple of those videos in the description for anybody who's interested, because the retreat center has a sketchy past, not just this other fellow from Texas. Um, and just the whole thing with her not only being black but being transgender, and then there's like a whole history of um, the assaults of the intimate type that have happened at the retreat center that are largely, you know, covered up and brushed under the rug and whitewashed. So that's been a thing too. And then how, like, you're not supposed to wear clothes that are revealing because you don't want to tempt the yogis. They're sorry, I have been using too much of the powdery stuff in my nose, I admit it. No, I do have some allergies actually. But anyway, what was I saying about yeah, the assaults, that there's a history of that at the ashram that don't get talked about. So that's something to look at too. So not just locals victimizing tourists off site, but right on site. So um watching granddaughter just went to Atlantic and said waves pushed sand up so much her feet got buried and almost stuck. Yeah, a popular evangelical minister in Long Island paid me for weekly humiliation spanking motel meetups, and he smoked crack. Minutes later, he'd run out, leaving his stuff in $100 bills. What? Paid you, JR Nana Boomer? That's wild. That is super wild. With her passport and no cell phone. So yeah, like where in the world is her passport? The only way to get on the island is by boat. I guess you can't go by helicopter or plane. There's no bridges that go to it. So um, of course, there's private boats in addition to whatever, like ferry boats. So for her passport to be missing, which, I never thought about Kylie Rodney's passport, because if she went to Mexico uh, prior to her disappearance, she would have needed a passport for that. So where's Kylie's passport? Oh, there's a good question. Where is Kylie's passport? And how come that's never been brought up? Or maybe it has and I haven't caught it. Pirated and they tossed her cell phone over. Just thinking how many minister stories I have. Yeah. I think the whole world needs to get back to minding their own business and stop lurking, stop hurting their neighbors. I'm not sure what you mean by that, watching the world. Um, we are meant to be helpful, compassionate, and considerate. Yeah, being helpful and looking out for each other, and um, so yeah, I'm not sure where you're coming from with that. Apparently, Chris Watts just said NK unalived his daughters. I've seen and heard some of the rumblings about that, and I haven't gotten that specific information. I know some of the thumbnails have said as much, um, but I believe that she probably did, and I also believe that Chris is going to protect her to his grave. So it would be cool if he did come out with the actual truth, but he's just like JP. You can tell that he's lying if his lips are moving. Like, he's a pathological liar, just like NK is. Um, who the heck is that? Whoa, JR Nana, that comment was blocked from my view. Who the heck is that? JR Nana's comment was blocked from your view watching the world. Sorry to hear that. Loads of creepers out there. I used to be a dominatrix in New York City before 9/11. Out of curiosity, humans are really interesting creatures. So I worked with a woman in the King County crisis team that I was on. This woman's roommate was a dominatrix in Seattle. So I would hear stories from that coworker about that. That is some wild stuff. And yeah, there's people who will pay big, big money to be whipped and humiliated. It's pretty wild. I just hate all the crime. I know, I hate people getting hurt, and I hate people getting victimized. And I mean, we're all vulnerable to getting hurt just in simple accidents, like, twisting an ankle, or banging our head on a cabinet or something. I mean, car accidents, there's just all types of danger in the world. But the sinister, outright victimization is awful. And then when people get away with it, like what I think happened with Kylie Rodney, I think that she was victimized by Scammy and other individuals that have gotten away with it so far. That's my belief, is that she was victimized and people have not been held accountable. Um, that's my belief with Micah. Micah's been victimized, and there's been no accountability. And let's talk about the Idaho 4 quickly before we wrap up. We're getting to an hour and 45 minutes. So with the Idaho 4, I just watched one of 1111's most recent videos about it. And it's about Jack D is in the title. Like, she's always been suspicious of Jack D the way I've always been suspicious of Jack D. And I wanted to email her because she says that Jack D's roommate, Adam, the bartender at the corner club, got the 6-figure job that Kaylee was offered in Austin, Texas. The job that she was leaving Moscow for. And if that's true, that's pretty wild. If Jack D's roommate, and she makes some really good points in her video about how Adam is Jack D's alibi and Jack D is basically Adam's alibi. Like, they don't really have alibis, the two of them. We know that Adam was working that night at the corner club. We know that Jack was at the corner club drinking with the girls. We know this from the still shot that was taken from the video surveillance. That whole case is just so insane. And I know there was like almost a 400 page document drop that a lot of the content creators have been going over, and Jules of all trades, I think, has gone over it with a fine-tooth comb. Um, that whole case is just effing nuts as far as I'm concerned. And I don't trust any of it. I certainly don't trust the timeline. I don't trust the law enforcement. I don't trust the survivors, the witnesses that weren't witnesses. I don't trust them. Um, one of the points that Mama D brings up is that allegedly Xana and Ethan had left the frat party and came home to watch a movie and eat pizza. Xana's father says that he was texting with her about that. So if they were having pizza at midnight, then why are they ordering DoorDash allegedly that was delivered at 4 a.m? That doesn't really make sense unless they're like super duper hungry with the munchies. But then we had, a 5-hour time gap of when they had left that Sigma Chi party. I don't know, like around 10 o'clock maybe, until around 2 o'clock. Well, that would only be 4 hours. So maybe they left at about 9:30, something like that. So there was this 5-hour gap that for 6 weeks after it happened, all the questions were, where were they for those 5 hours and what was going on, and trying to track that down. And then in the PCA, it says essentially that Bethany cleared that up by saying that she was at the party and that they were there for those 5 hours. Then why was it said that they weren't there for those 5 hours? And why would Xana's dad say that he was texting her and that she was at home watching a movie with her boyfriend eating pizza? So, yeah, that whole case is just so full of effery. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Literally unbelievable. So let's catch up with the rest of your comments and then maybe wrap up. Oh, I'm glad you brought up the thing about Watts, though. I wasn't going to touch any of that. And, one of the things that I think is just so disgusting about NK, and I think everything about her is disgusting, but the way she was kind of always bragging to law enforcement about how she didn't do social media, like she's too good to be, on Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff. And I don't believe that she didn't do social media. I think that she does social media under fake profiles. And we know that she was using apps to communicate discreetly with her married boyfriend. Let's see. That is such a wild share, JR Nana. Thank you for sharing that. I was still stuck on the JP conversation, trying to figure out how they say it. When were you reading it, Jazz? Everyone's is blocked. When you were reading it, Jazz, everyone's is blocked. Oh, maybe it was taken down by YouTube because of like some buzzwords or something like that. Yikes! Sorry, you guys. My point was about ministers, and I just watched that Mama D's video too. I can't keep up. It's impossible to keep up. I mean, just know that, whatever it is that you watch, you're watching what you need to be watching. And yeah, there's way too many content creators and way too many videos. I mean, just trying to keep up with one content creator can be rough. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people do just pick like their favorite one or favorite two because they work and they have families and they have lives, and it's hard enough just to keep up with the one. Some of these content creators have more than one channel. I don't know how they do it. Let's see. It seems any info seeping into public is more to confuse than to help figure out. Oh, yeah, watching the world, that's a great point. I mean, I think a lot of the information that we get, we need to be suspicious of, that it's all questionable. I mean, there's just propaganda, there's fake news. I mean, there's misinformation and there's disinformation. I like to distinguish that some of the misinformation is innocent, but it's still the wrong information. And then the disinformation is when people are intentionally trying to create a fake narrative. And there's a lot of both. So it's always good to be careful and check your resources and, um, just remaining kind of neutral and not taking people. You can't take anybody's word for it, no matter how much you trust them. Like they might be misinformed too. They might be misremembering. Maybe they were given bad information. Um, if law enforcement present any information up front, seems to become invalid in so many cases. Yeah, I mean, the law enforcement with the Idaho 4, and just the fact that it took them 4 hours for the lead investigator to get there, and they didn't have any like story of like why it took them 4 hours, or why they didn't have somebody else be the lead, somebody who could get there much sooner. Um, yeah, crazy. Jazz, now that you said they had just eaten pizza, why did they need DoorDash? It finally sunk in. I get it now. Yeah, and that's how I felt when I was watching this Mama D video that I'll put the link to in the description. I was like, good point, Mama D. Unless, they were just starving Marvins, right? No, it doesn't make sense. I know a few, but their clientele isn't particularly ministers. So too funny. I just pick one or two for crime, but I have a gazillion for all sorts of things. I love your. Oh, aw, thank you, Jackie Bushable. You're so sweet. Um, I am flattered, and I feel like I get a lot from doing these lives. I get a lot of great information from you guys. I get a lot of great opinions from you guys. And I'm an Idaho fanatic, Jackie Bushball. Yeah, I was for a while. And then, like, I just couldn't take any more of it because I just think it's all such a crock. Let me just say what I've said a bunch of times since I've shifted gears away from Idaho 4. It's been, over a year and a half, coming up on 2 years in November. And all the dirt that they can find on their criminal defendant is like some girl that he had a crush on in the 6th grade that is saying that that was creepy to her. Oh, and a bad Tinder date that he texted that she had good birthing hips. Like, I've said this on one or two videos. Well, like, he needs to be executed for that. Like, you don't text a girl that she's got great birthing hips. Off with his head. This is all the dirt that they can find on him, that he had a substance abuse problem when he was 19 or 20, and that he stole his sister's cell phone, and that his sister and his dad turned him into law enforcement for the cell phone, but yet they're, being squirrely about him unaliving 4 people. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that his car would be all dirty on that road trip if he wanted to clean up the evidence. And then they're saying that he was like cleaning up the evidence at his parents' house in Pennsylvania 6 weeks after the fact. Like, no, any dummy is going to clean up the evidence right away. And especially a dummy who's working on a PhD in forensics. I mean, give me a freaking break. I really think that he pissed some people off, and that I still think he got that job with the Pullman Police Department, the paid fellowship position that he interviewed for on April 12th of 2022. And then they had the emails sent back and forth between him and it was Chief Jensen. Is that his name? The guy who then became the police chief at Wazoo when the entire command staff was relieved of their duties. That whole thing with Matthew Kurt, who got them all resigned basically. And then his last day, he didn't resign until November 4th. And then they're trying to say that fake human resources letter with the criminal defendant would have motivated him to do this when, wait, wouldn't like the command staff and Matthew Kurt, wouldn't they have more anger over losing their jobs and their careers? And then just the whole thing with Jensen being the guy who interviewed Koberger, who emailed with him. And Koberger was one of 4 candidates for that position. And then somebody came into my chat over a year ago and tried to sell me the idea that there were 2 women that were hired to fill that position, that fellowship. When, first of all, the fellowship wasn't even a 40-hour-a-week position. It was more like a 20-hour-a-week position. And they said that Dawn Daniels and Victoria somebody were each given half of the position. And I knew exactly who Dawn Daniels was because she was the person who held down the fort at Wazoo when the entire command staff was put on an administrative leave. Dawn Daniels is currently the police chief, assistant police chief of Wazoo Police Department. And then Jerry Jenkins, who happens to be the guy who interviewed Koberger on April 12th, 2022, he then took over to be the police chief at Wazoo. The effery is off the chain, you guys. Pullman PD and Moscow PD work closely together. Wazoo PD is the source of who located Koberger's vehicle. And then the whole thing with freaking Kopaka or Kopak. I mean, it's freaking crazy. That whole Idaho thing is freaking nuts. It just is insane. And it's so sad. I mean, what a cluster. What an absolute cluster. So let's go ahead and wrap up. I think we're pushing 2 hours. Jackie Bushable, you were so sweet. I love your personality and opinions. It's just nice to have a voice. I mean, I didn't realize when I started my YouTube channel almost 2 years ago now that is really what it's about, is having a voice. And my voice is tired from all that reading and all this talking. So I'm going to wind it down. And watching the world, that's just my personal ministers can be unholy experience. I've witnessed some really creepy stuff from popular ministers. Well, yeah, like Jerry Baker, Tammy Faye Baker, JP and his daddy. And yeah, it's really sad. They are squirrely, all right. Yes. There is no way he did that all alone. Jackie Bushable, thank you for that input. Yeah, I think that there had to be multiple people involved. Like, what person is going to walk into a house with 6 cars parked out front by themselves to do that? And then the dog, the dog, the dog is always key. And speaking of the dog, if only we could interview Kylie's dog. that big white fluffy thing. In my opinion, we just need to understand that cops, doctors, priests, they are all just humans, regular people with different educations who wear different costumes, and that they are held to a higher standard than your average person because of the power and the keys that they hold. They have to be held to a higher standard, not an average standard. And it's just too easy for them to abuse and get away with it. And it's just really, really sickening. It's really sad. And yeah, they are human, maybe. I mean, I'm thinking they're more like freaking demons and devils, really. I mean, monsters and animals. I mean, when they're abusing people, that's just so freaking disgusting. So, there's many, many good ones that don't do terrible things like that. And it's, the one bad apple that ruins the whole batch and makes all of them look bad. So, they really need to be held accountable. And, the accountability, the lack of accountability is really what motivates me, is that people need to be held accountable for their actions. People need to be held responsible. There needs to be justice. And information is healing. People who have lost their loved ones need to know the truth about what happened to their loved ones. If their loved one died in a car accident or died drowning, they need to know that. To lose a loved one, to literally just have them be lost and not know what happened. Ask anybody who's experienced that finding out their grisly demise is a relief, usually. As treacherous as it is, it's less treacherous than the not knowing. The not knowing just gnaws away at people's minds and spirits and hearts, and it's just really sad. We are the ones that have to watch out for them because they are held to a higher standard. Have to be cautious. Absolutely. All right, you guys, so signing off. Thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely rest of your evening. And I see my silly thumb all the way down here out of the frame. Please hit that like button on the way out if you haven't yet. And I hope to see you soon. I know I often am not able to get to do my YouTubing over the weekends. I'm excited to share that I think I have landed the space in our church to use for yoga classes, to teach yoga classes. I might even be able to do some videotaping of my yoga and upload it so that you guys can keep practicing with me if you're interested in that, because it's just awesome. Thank you, watching the world. Thank you, everybody. Sending you light and love, and just reminding you that we're not brains in jars yet, so we do need to keep taking care of our bodies. And it's just so important, and it feels so good. And yeah, I mean, just eating healthy, eating the vegetables, the high protein, drinking the water, and just being authentic, being true to yourself, being true to the people around you, and staying humble and admitting our faults and our shortcomings, because of course we all have them. And there's nothing worse to me than being full of yourself or being in denial and, just being motivated by ego and selling out. That's putrid. And there's so much of that in the world. So I try to stay away from it. And I hope that, building a community here of other people who try to stay away from that too. And check out that band, AJR, Adam, Jack, and Ryan, the brothers. If you haven't checked them out yet, they are so effing cool. Them and their lyrics and their brilliance and their modalities, their multimedia. I mean, they're freaking genius. They really are. So, love to you. I always been authentic, but my eating and drinking habits are more for pleasure than health. Oh, that's sweet. I like your honesty. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, it's good to enjoy as well. Um, so I see the comment about AJR, Adam, Jack, and Ryan. They are brothers, and they changed their last name to Met. I think their last name was like Metzler or something like that. So they grew up in New York City. They're still in New York City. They're about 30. I think the youngest one is 26. The middle one is 30. The oldest one is 32. They all went to Columbia University. They're all extremely bright, extremely honest, and extremely talented. So their songs are really about their problems and their struggles, and it's just really cute and fun. And I'll put a link to, you can subscribe to their channel. Like they're all about the freaking electronics. They're all about it. They have a YouTube. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. It's called AJR. Adam, Jack, and Ryan. Yes. Oh, I love them. So their big song that you've probably heard is called Bang. I think it's been out for about 3 years. But there's a lot of their songs that I had heard that I had no idea. I'd never heard the name of the band. And their videos are just freaking awesome. The Yes, I'm a Mess, the one with Elmo, gotta love it. All right, you guys. See you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out and just be real.